We'll call this meeting to order. Please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to waver a little bit from the agenda, and at this point, today is 9/11, and it's anniversary of 9/11/2001 events, and I would like to take a moment of silence and remember those that lost their lives and have given their lives since. Thank you. We're going to forego reading the mission statement. We've got a very full agenda, and the first item up is proclamations for Hunger Action Month, September 2012. And Mr. Sailors and anybody here to receive this, meet me at the podium. The proclamation, whereas the town of Silver City is committed to the well-being of all residents, combating poverty, providing temporary relief assistance, and encouraging conditions of prosperity that reduce dependence on government are key to ensuring that each resident can look forward to a safe, healthy, and secure future. And whereas hunger and poverty are issues of serious concern in Silver City, where 17.9% of residents were found to be living below the federal poverty line in 2010, and hundreds more are classified as food insecure, which is defined as being unable to regularly procure a sufficient amount of healthy food. And whereas Silver City's anti-hunger network is a strong, effective, and informal affiliation of private citizens, the food industry, and faith-based public and nonprofit organizations committed to meeting the needs of struggling residents. Distributing tens of thousands of pounds of food each year through the Gospel Mission Food Pantry and Soup Kitchen and other community organizations, the Silver City Gospel Mission is estimated to provide emergency food for 1 in 12 Silver citizens. And whereas the Silver City Gospel Mission will host numerous events in Silver City throughout the month of September in order to focus greater attention on hunger in our town, residents of all ages are encouraged to find out how they can contribute their time, resources, and efforts to the cause of ending hunger in our community. Now therefore, I, James R. Marshall, Mayor of the town of Silver City, do hereby proclaim September 2012 as Hunger Action Month in Silver City. And we urge all residents to take action through the Gospel Mission on behalf of our neighbors in need in our town. Thank you.
Thank you, James.
Thank you very much. And you may say a few words.
I would just like to say the town of Silver City has always been very supportive of the mission, and Alex, thank you, and we appreciate that. And any help, if you ever want to come down and help serve in the kitchen, we'd appreciate you to come down. Years ago, I believe that you did. We'd love to have you any day of the week, Monday through Friday. Thank you.
No one signed up for public input, so the next item is council comments. Councilor Bettison, would you like to start?
No comments, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Cook?
Happy birthday, Cynthia.
Thank you.
How many? Just kidding.
You are not going to say it. You don't ask a woman her age.
No, it's more fun on TV. Councilor Ray?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few things to say. I attended the Picamania, and it was nice. Silver City has a lot of different things that we do during the year. I'd like to see more people participate in it. And hopefully that if these people can be doing these things throughout the year, maybe they can get bigger and bring more people, more residents to participate, and more out-of-town people to come. I am going to read something here, and this is only a inquiry. From time to time, the constituents have inquired as to the chances of legalized gambling within the town under the authority of the town's territorial charter. Most have suggested gambling as a form of economic development, and I might be convinced of its appropriateness. I have met with a town attorney and have learned that it has been almost 80 years since the courts of New Mexico have reviewed the town's powers under the charter. Accordingly, I would like to suggest that the town attorney be directed to explore the possibilities of the town-regulated gambling and to report back to us as to the law and opportunities. This request is not my endorsement of gambling in the town, but I think being informed of the possibilities can hurt. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Morales.
No comment.
Thank you. No, reserve any comments tonight. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, sir.
Next is approval of minutes of the regular meeting of August 23rd, 2012.
Mr. Mayor,
Council.
I move that we approve the minutes of the regular meeting of August 23rd, 2012.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of the Town Council of August 23rd, 2010. Is there any discussion? Or 2012? I don't have my glasses. Any discussion? There's a motion and a second, no discussion, to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of the Town Council from August 23rd, 2012. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is under reports, and we'll start with the presentation of Gila Regional Medical Center's Strategic Facility Plan Project by Brian Bentley, CEO.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to discuss our expansion and renovation plans with you. Given that you don't have to take any vote on this, I recognize that it's a use of your time and it's very much appreciated in our efforts to demonstrate to the public what we're trying to do. We always start our presentations by talking about our mission, which is providing exceptional quality, patient-centered care and healing environments. Our talk today really focuses around the fact that our healing environment is hitting its 30th birthday and is getting a little less comfortable than what we would like. First of all, I want to do a little bit of just basics because there are always people who really don't know these items, but Gila Regional Medical Center is owned by Grant County. The county commission appoints our board of trustees. We are locally managed and financially independent. 5 years ago, we severed our connection with QHR, which used to provide the management for the hospital, and since that time, the CEO and CFO have been hired and report to the local board of trustees. We are a not-for-profit organization and in fact have a 501c3 foundation for the purpose of providing donations to help the hospital's operations. We employ over 700 caregivers, which makes us roughly the second largest employer in town. I want to take you back a little bit to Hillcrest General Hospital. Some of you may have been around long enough to remember it, but it was built in 1937, and roughly 12 years later, it was in such a state of not necessarily disrepair, but the needs of health care had changed so much that it needed to be remodeled. So that was done, and in 1978, the physicians who use Hillcrest approached the county stating that the physical plant deficiencies were such that they felt it really hindered their ability to provide top quality care to the community. What had happened was change had happened in the way health care is provided locally and nationally, and the facility had not kept up. That facility was actually out of date to the extent that they didn't feel they could remodel it and bring it back into not only compliance, but the kind of physical condition needed to provide good quality care. So they made the decision to build an entirely new facility. They were lucky that in those days, construction costs were relatively inexpensive, and for $10 million, they were able to build what is now known as Gila Regional Medical Center. Gila Regional opened up in 1983, and it was designed to meet the healthcare needs of the community for the next 20 years. To give you a little perspective, 1983 was the year that the IBM personal computer was introduced, and the first MRI, which is a piece of equipment that every hospital today has, was built. Now, 29 years later, healthcare is a completely different animal, and all of the things such as electronic medical records, ultrasound, and all of the diagnostic and therapeutic equipment we use were not envisioned by the designers of the existing building. So what happened was Gila Regional met the needs of the community with respect to the physical plant up through about the year 2000. And the top part of the slide shows you that the facility was roughly what was opened in 1983. However, after that, as healthcare changed, we felt that we needed to start making additions, and the lower half of that slide shows all the additions that were made between the year 2000 and 2012. Easily put, healthcare keeps changing, and the facility had to meet up with it. However, those changes added things to the facility, but they didn't do anything about the existing facility physical plant, so that it became more and more inadequate to meet our current needs. As an example, when the building was open, 70% of our revenue came from people spending the night in an inpatient bed. Today, 70% of our revenue comes from people who go to the hospital, have some service performed, and who go home that night. So that what we have is we have a lot of patient rooms that are largely empty and not well suited for the people who do have to stay there. And then we have outpatient services that have crammed more and more volume into a space that's become inadequate for each of them. With the increasing use of technology, the existing facility is getting more and more out of date, and as our population ages, we have specific needs that we need to meet. There's been a lot of interest from the community in having private rooms, and we are struggling with now increasing costs for repairs, high energy usage, etc. So the needs of the physical plant have kept changing, and that's going to continue, and we're going to need to do something about it. So we've looked at what do we do about it. Interestingly, there have been several new hospitals opened up in New Mexico in the last year. Rancho Regional Medical Center was opened this year at a cost of $150 million. It started out with 68 beds. It's now at 90. So it wasn't a grossly larger facility than what we have. And UNM's Sandoval Regional Medical Center opened this year also at $132 million, again at about a 70-bed capacity. We've had our architects take a look at what it would take to replace our physical plant. They've estimated it will be about $75 million plus the land cost and the land improvement cost, which puts it somewhere in the range of $100 million. We do not believe that is the best way to operate the facility, and that it would put a burden on the facility's finances, which would also then be translated into more of a burden for the community. So we are proposing a renovation strategy. And we believe we can expand and renovate the facility for just under $41 million. How did we do this? Over the last 3 to 4 years, we have been looking at all of our service lines, looking at all of our usage patterns, and all of the ways that those have been changing. We've also been looking at national healthcare delivery methods to look at how healthcare is changing nationally and how it looks like healthcare will change in the future. We've been tracking our equipment needs, and while we're in good shape with movable equipment, most of our fixed equipment, like elevators, boilers, those sorts of things, are pretty much at the end of their useful life. Now, I think anyone who's been paying much attention to the news knows that healthcare is in the news, and that the news for hospital providers is to expect that revenue will be harder to find and operating conditions will be tighter as we move forward. So we've sat down and we've taken a look at various scenarios that take a look at what healthcare will be like to live under in terms of a financial sense in the future. We had a okay scenario, a bad scenario, and a scenario. We've decided that it's going to be somewhere between bad and all of our financial projections have been based on the idea that if you take the worst possible outcomes and prepare for that, that's probably going to be about where you end up. So far, that's actually been fairly accurate. So we've used those financial analyses to look at what could we afford in order to meet the needs of the facility and still operate in a conservative manner that doesn't put the hospital's finances in jeopardy. We've taken that information and worked with all of our caregivers. We've hired architects and planners to design a layout for the facility that we think will meet the needs and will allow us to live within a financial cost that we can afford. We've presented this to our board of directors and our caregivers and have gotten their approval to move forward, and as part of that, we're trying to inform the public of what we're doing. So, this is what the new Gila Regional Expansion and Master Plan would look like. The yellow sections are new space. You can see that there is 42,500 square feet of new space, and you can see most of it is to the west of the hospital with a connector that connects what we call Pod 3 to the emergency room to improve circulation, and another causeway, again, to improve the circulation. We also intend to renovate just about 76,000 square feet. That is most all of the second floor and a big part of the first floor. We've designed this to take in mind our patient-centered philosophy and input that we've received from the community over the last 4 years as to what they feel needs to happen with the facility to make it more user-friendly. And we've developed a multi-phased approach to do that. This is sort of an aerial view of what the campus would look like. It again shows you the expansion that is on the left side of the picture with the other additions that will make it easier for us to route materials, patients, and the public around the facility. It does entail moving the helipad, a number of the parking areas, and we are looking at having a new entrance on the first floor side that is pretty much to the left of your diagram there, so that we can try and bring things like registration back to the area where all the parking is. We really don't want people who come for that 70% of our revenue to fight with the emergency room patients for a place to park while we have a lot of more or less unused parking in the main parking area. So, what the project will do is it will centralize registration and scheduling in the first floor. It will create what we're calling a one-stop shop, particularly for outpatient surgery, where when you have to come and get your preoperative work done, we're going to have everything in one place so that you don't have to go scurrying around the facility to get the preparation done. We're going to make major changes to how patients flow through the building, and we're going to be opening up a specialty physician clinic so that we can bring specialists to the community to provide specialties where there isn't a large enough population to support a physician of that specialty full-time, but we're able to bring somebody in on a regular basis to give better access to the community to things like endocrinology and rheumatology, etc. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to go to all private rooms. We're going to completely replace and expand our maternal child area, and we're going to expand the surgery center area. This project necessitates moving the materials management area to a more convenient location, and it will help us improve circulation. We're also going to bring outpatient rehab back onto the campus. That will allow us to provide some services that we cannot provide now, and it will free up space at the wellness center that will allow us to continue to expand and grow the services that we offer there. We're going to bring our education program also back to the campus and our health resource library, and then we're going to be adding larger meeting spaces so that we can accommodate our operations and provide those when they're available to the public. So, as I mentioned before, this is just under a $41 million project. We intend to go out to the bond market to do a bond financing for about $34 million and contribute $6.34 million of our own cash to cover the cost of the project. Okay, the question would be, why do that now? First of all, our current debt will be paid off in 2014. That means a big chunk of the payments that we will be making are payments we're currently making, and we only have to come up with the difference. Right now, most of you know that interest rates are very low. We have been contacted by a number of organizations that have proposed a number of different financing techniques, all of which have interest rates that range between 3.5% and 4.5%. That is significantly lower than the debt we have currently. Also, some of these options provide fairly low costs to actually issue the bonds, and we're concerned about the issuance costs because they can be considerable. I think most people would agree that construction costs are going to increase in the future, so this is not a project that we really want to put off down the road. Once we've built all of the new expansion and renovation, it will increase our operating expenses for interest and depreciation by about 3% of our total operations. That works out to about $76,000 a month, which sounds like a lot until you realize that we spend between $6.5 and $7 million a month in operating Gila Regional. Because medical interest rates or inflation rates are growing 3 to 4% a year, this basically will be an increase that amounts to 1 year's inflation. We're very comfortable that this is something that we can afford even under the future circumstances where we're going to be seeing continued rate cuts and much tougher time getting revenue. This is a project that will be paid for by Gila Regional, so there will be no tax impact to the public, and we do not receive any tax support from the county or from the state as budgetary items. The only monies we get from the county actually are, the county pays us for providing indigent care as they pay for other providers to do the same. We will be paying the bonds back out of our operating revenue, and because this is a substantial project, it will create a number of jobs for the community, and it will generate significant gross receipts revenues. We've been very conservative in how we operate Gila Regional because we do not have a safety net. We don't have a corporate partner. We don't have anybody to bail us out, and we believe it's our responsibility to operate the facility in such a way that we don't have to. Because of that, we have designed our financial approach so that our debt service coverage, which is what any financial institution that loans us money will require, will be far greater than what they will require. We want to have a very large safety margin in our ability to pay back our bills. And in fact, even if we make no operating profit at all, we will still be able to make all of our debt payments. We'll be able to spend $3 million a year in capital improvements and continue to pay all of our bills. We believe that creates a fairly conservative approach to financing the project, and we're comfortable that once that's done, we'll have what will appear to be an entirely new facility that will meet all of the current operating needs and will be designed to help us be successful for the next 20 years. This is a multi-phase project. As I said earlier, the planning and design started in 2012. It will go through and into 2014. It will take about 2 years to build the new building and about 18 to 20 months to do the renovations. So this project will be done sometime around 2017, but we'll obviously be able to operate the facility comfortably and continuously throughout. So that's the presentation, and I would be more than happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the council? Any burning questions from the audience? You're off the hook, Brian.
Okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present this.
Thank you, Brian. Next item on the agenda is a report of volunteer effort by W&N Enterprises, Food Basket, and Deming Coca-Cola for Goff Park's basketball court. Please come to the podium.
My name is Kevin Perry with Deming Coca-Cola. This is an opportunity we have to bring a little to the community back. Okay. This is an opportunity that we can actually bring back to the community here. This park renovation that's going on, we'll be able to sponsor money. For us, it's one of 150 parks across the United States that we can actually afford to do this with as a company, Coca-Cola as a whole. We have partnered up with WN Enterprises. They allow us to bring in a community effort into the program also. Go ahead. What's going to provide? What's going to provide is a maximum $5,000 donation towards the renovation of the basketball courts. And the only thing the city needs to do really is approve this, allow us to do this, and then at the end, provide a representative from the city to the Deming Coca-Cola and Snappy Mart for a public acceptance of the donation.
The approval is an administrative approval through the town manager, but I would be happy to go get the donation. Anything else?
That's it.
Thank you.
The approval's already been made, and I just want to thank them for helping out with the basketball courts at Golf Park. So it's really appreciated. What we're looking at doing is work on the basketball courts, the actual the courts themselves, because they've got a lot of cracking in them, and that's what we want to use them for.
Thank you. Questions? Councilor Bedison.
So you're talking about resurfacing, great. Is there going to be any signage to say that it's a Spark Park? Is there anything going to indicate that it's...
No flag, no signage or anything like that.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
We'll move right along. The next item on the agenda is approval, disapproval of ordinance number 1208, an ordinance amending Chapter 10, Business Articles 2, 3, and 7 of the Town of Silver City Municipal Code relating to business registrations, business licenses, and permits within the Town of Silver City, Grant County, New Mexico. And once again, this is a final reading of this ordinance that I sponsored, and it is, the really simple thing is it increases the business registration fee from $25 to $35, and it cleans up some of the language that we had in the old code and ensures that we're actually regulating pertinent businesses that apply today and not in the 1930s. And Robert, did you want to add anything? And with that, any questions? Councilor Bedison.
Mayor, this ordinance also ensures that business registration fees will also be paid by all persons doing business within the town who may not have a specific place of business, like they may be out of town or they may be in the county, but if they're doing business within the town, they must be licensed, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Any discussion from the audience? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Bedison.
I move to approve ordinance number 1208, and ordinance amending Chapter 10, Business, Articles 2, 3, and 7 of the Town of Silver City Municipal Code relating to business registrations, business licenses, and permits within the Town of Silver City, Grant County, New Mexico.
Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, I second that motion.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion from the council? There's a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 1208, an ordinance amending Chapter 10, Business Articles 2, 3, and 7 of the Town of Silver City Municipal Code relating to business registrations, business licenses, and permits within the Town of Silver City, Grant County, New Mexico. There being no further discussion, roll call, please.
Council Wilson?
Aye.
Council Cook?
Aye.
Aye.
Council Long?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is approval, disapproval of ordinance number 1210, an ordinance amending the municipal code of the Town of Silver City, Grant County, New Mexico, Chapter 28, Municipal Court, Articles 4, Initiation the Town of Silver City, Grant County, New Mexico, Chapter 28, Municipal Court, Article 4. I already read that. Initiation of proceedings, sentencing, fine, and court costs. I told you I should have brought my glasses. This is, yeah, this is another ordinance that I sponsored, and the municipal judge came and spoke last time, and besides adding that there's a warrant fee of $100, which is already implemented in the state courts, but not in the municipal courts, this also allows for her to impose a fee for warrants rather than imposing an additional charge of contempt of court. And so this definitely decreases the burden, the criminal burden on an offender, while ensuring that the court fees are recovered with the increased demand in issuing a warrant. Is there any discussion from the audience? Seeing none, any discussion from the council? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor.
I move to approve ordinance number 1210, an ordinance amending the municipal code of the Town of Silver City, Grant County, New Mexico, Chapter 28, Municipal Court, Articles 4, initiation of proceedings, sentencing, fine, and court costs.
Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, I second that.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? There's a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 1210, an ordinance amending the municipal code of the Town of Silver City, Grant County, New Mexico, Chapter 28, Municipal Court, Article 4, initiation of proceedings, sentencing, fine, and court cost. There being no further discussion, roll call, please.
Council Morones?
Aye.
Council Webb?
Aye.
Council Cook?
Aye.
Council Benson?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is approval, disapproval of ordinance number 1212, an ordinance amending Chapter 30, Article 2, Museum Board, Section 30-21, purpose, and Section 30-27, authority to accept gifts and donations of the Town of Silver City Municipal Code. Councilor Bedison.
Thank you, Mayor. This ordinance clarifies the nature of the board's advisory role, duties and responsibilities thereof, and what it does, it also clarifies and distinguishes between the Silver City Museum Board and of course, the town board.
Thank you. Any discussion from the audience? Tracy, want to say anything? Seeing none, any discussion from the council? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor.
I move to approve ordinance number 1212, an ordinance amending Chapter 30, Article 2, Museum Board, Section 30-21, purpose, and Section 30-27, authority to accept gifts and donations of the Town of Silver City Municipal Code.
Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, I second that motion.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? There's a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 1212, an ordinance amending Chapter 30, Article 2, Museum Board, Section 30-21, purpose, and Section 30-27, authority to accept gifts and donations of the Town of Silver City Municipal Code. There being no further discussion, roll call, please.
Council Benson?
Aye.
Council Cook?
Aye.
Council Webb?
Aye.
Council Morones?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is approval, disapproval of ordinance number 1213, an ordinance amending Chapter 44, Article 3, Lodgers Tax, Section 44-125, Advisory Board created, composition, disposition of proceeds of the Town of Silver City Municipal Code. Councilor.
Thank you, Mayor. This ordinance imposes, or actually doesn't, imposes 3-year terms of office on Lodgers Tax Advisory Board members to promote additional community involvement in the flow of new perspective and ideas. It also provides for developing staggered terms. It does not in any way prevent Lodgers Tax Advisory Board members for seeking reappointment. It does not, there's no term limit on the number of times they can seek reappointment.
Any comments from the audience? Seeing none, any comments from the council?
No, sir.
Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Counselor.
I move to approve ordinance number 1213, an ordinance amending Chapter 44, Article 3, Lodgers Tax, Section 44-125, Advisory Board created, composition, disposition of proceeds of the Town of Silver City Municipal Code.
Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, I second that motion.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? There's a motion and a second, no discussion, to approve ordinance number 1213, an ordinance amending Chapter 44, Article 3, Lodgers Tax, Section 44 through 125, Advisory Board created, composition, disposition of proceeds of the Town of Silver City Municipal Code. And there being no further discussion, roll call, please.
Council Edison?
Aye.
Council Cook?
Aye.
Council Ray?
Aye.
Council Malone?
Aye.
Motion carries. Oops, a double whammy. Next item on the agenda is approval, disapproval of public celebration permit application and request for a waiver of the NMSA 1978 Section 60-6B-10 for the VIP opening reception for the Nan Ranch Collection, the legacy of Margaret Ross Hinton, to be held on October 6, 2012 from 6 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. at the Western New Mexico University Museum. License holder, High Desert Brewing Company, license number 6801, from 1201 West Hadley Avenue, Las Cruces, New Mexico. Philip?
Good evening, Mayor and fellow councilors. My name is Philip Cave. I am the Assistant Director at the Western New Mexico University Museum. I would like to take just a minute or two to give you a few details on an upcoming event at the University Museum. Our museum will be hosting the VIP opening reception for the Nan Ranch Collection, a legacy of Margaret R. Hinton, on October the 6th, 2012, from 7 to 9 p.m. And we seek your consideration of a public celebration permit for this event. The opening reception will honor Margaret R. Hinton, who graciously donated the Nan Ranch pottery and artifact collection to the University Museum. It is the most complete scientific collection known to this date, and it is extraordinary for our museum to have this. The opening reception is a fundraiser for the University Museum. Guests will enjoy a wide variety of hors d'oeuvres provided by Sodexo. They will be wonderful, trust me. The High Desert Brewing Company of Las Cruces will provide a variety of fine crafted beers, and guests will also have a wide selection of non-alcoholic beverages. Tickets for our fundraiser will cost $35 per person and can be purchased at the University Museum. The opening reception also falls at the tail end of the 17th Biennial Mogollon Archaeology Conference, which our museum is also hosting. That event is taking place from October the 4th through October the 6th. And archaeologists from all over the Southwest area, and even as far away as New York and Virginia, are coming to Silver City to learn and share their most recent findings and research of the Mogollon culture and its people. And many of these archaeologists are going to be attending this Nan Ranch VIP opening reception to honor the memory and legacy of Margaret R. Hinton. So again, we are seeking your consideration of a public celebration permit for this event. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion? Councilor Edison.
I just want to say great job, Philip. Excellent.
Thank you, Philip. You know, we were kind of on a flow, though, and you kind of screwed that up, but hope it didn't ruin the rest of the night for us. Any other discussion? Entertain a motion, and if you're moving to approve, make sure you include the waiver.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor.
I move for approval of public celebration permit application and request for a waiver NMSA 1978, Section 60-6B-10 for the VIP opening reception for the Nan Ranch Collection, the legacy of Margaret Ross Hinton, to be held on October 6th, 2012, from 6 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. at the Western New Mexico University Museum. License holder, High Desert Brewing Company, license number 6801 at 1201 West Hadley Avenue, Las Cruces, New Mexico, and grant said waiver under NMSA 1978, Section 60-6B-10.
Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, I'll second that as read.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I just have one more comment I forgot to make.
Councilor Bedison.
I just want to say that I've had a number of phone calls to the University Museum asking me if Margaret Ross Hinton and the Hinton family have any relation to an incident that happened with one of our local chiropractors. And I can tell you that the Hinton family, who donated the collection to the University Museum, does not have any known relation except for a common name, a last name, Hinton. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows that that's not the same Hinton family, just to clarify that.
Any other discussion?
No, sir.
There's a motion and a second to approve a public celebration permit application and issue a waiver pursuant to NMSA 1978, Section 60-6B-10 for the VIP opening reception for the Nan Ranch Collection, the legacy of Margaret Ross Hinton, to be held on October 6, 2012, from 6 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. at the Western New Mexico University Museum. License holder, High Desert Brewing Company. Being no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Councilor Bedison.
Mr. Mayor, I move for a short break.
Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, I second that.
There's a motion and a second for a short break. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll be in short recess. We'll call this meeting of the Silver City Town Council to order, back to order. And the next item on the agenda is approval, disapproval of notice of intent ordinance number 1211, an ordinance amending Chapter 32 nuisances, Article 3, unattended vacant buildings, Section 32-50 et sec. Of the Town of Silver City Municipal Code. Councilor Morones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll start with talking a little bit about the history of what brought the idea of this notice of intent into existence. A little over a year ago, several downtown merchants were meeting and discussing issues downtown and where we could have some improvement. And in large part, that's what set the intent of this potential ordinance in place. Once that downtown merchant group established this potential need, the Silver City Main Street project looked at it and saw that it definitely filled within their scope and purpose, especially under their four-point approach under the economic development, and started researching other towns and communities that had very similar issues and with vacant buildings. As many of us know, when we go downtown, there's several vacant buildings downtown. Many of them have been vacant for several years. Now, understanding the dynamic of a downtown, a historic downtown, you want, as part of a healthy business district, you do want a small number of vacancies to allow for new ideas, new entrepreneurs, the ability to start business and help create a progressing and dynamic business district. But when you do find in an aged district like ours, the buildings that find themselves vacant for decades in many cases, the question is begged, how safe are those buildings? Not only are they detracting from the economic viability and vibrancy of the downtown, they're actually creating a very dangerous environment. We don't know what the deterioration inside those buildings. And even though we have a number of ordinances that do help mitigate that such as the abatement of dangerous buildings, the Uniform Code of Abatement of Dangerous Buildings, as well as other ordinances within this same Section 32 of abatement, we don't really have a bridge to get to those ordinances, because we really haven't had an ability to access, to get updated, to find out how we actually, what issues may exist in those buildings. And so this ordinance that was brought to us by the downtown merchants really offers a great opportunity to bridge ourselves and actually help out the district in a number of ways. Something that when this first came to my attention, one of the things that really motivated me to help sponsor this and help move it forward was, I was talking with a number of firefighters, and one of the questions I asked was, if there's a fire in one of those southern buildings, how do we plan on fighting that? And one of the staff jokingly said we would start with a D9 Cat on the north end of Bullard, and that would probably be the most efficient. Now, of course, that was a joke, but what it does illustrate is neighbors to those vacant buildings are very much at risk in case of fire or other problems. And as we know, there's a number of other issues that put our pedestrians at risk. And all of this, which is, in my motivation, is mostly on a safety issue, it also creates a definite lack of appeal as a business district. We definitely want to turn some of these buildings over and start getting them productive and such, and I believe that this ordinance does a good job in setting that in place. One of the key differences between what we have in front of us and what was originally handed and requested that I present by Main Street is a escalating fee, which they were wanting to see something to promote people turning over their vacant buildings substantially quicker. What I looked at is, once we get these buildings on the records, we understand what's vacant and what's being done to put these into service. I think we're meeting a huge, we're moving forward greatly, especially once we can actually get in there and start making these buildings safe. We create an environment where the neighbors, the tenants, the landlords, the patrons of these businesses start to feel safe. We're moving in and out of the buildings that are adjacent to a lot of these vacant buildings. On the escalating fees, one of the things that I looked at was, in many cases, we have some very active local property owners who work very hard to get their buildings up to code, make them rentable, make them sellable, but in doing the district a favor, are very prudent on who their tenants are. And as such, they vet those tenants heavily and make sure that we get good downtown businesses. Where I saw the escalating fees actually may make them less prudent, maybe a little more irresponsible, and actually bring in some businesses in haste that are not good to the district, not good for them, not good for their neighbors or the dynamic of downtown. But I do not see that weakens this ordinance substantively. I think that we can move forward very well. In conversing with staff just very quickly, when we do move forward, if we do choose to move forward, I do need to have a little bit of some language changes on page 2 of 7. And under section 32-51, purpose, I need that paragraph to read, "The purpose of this article is to regulate unattended, vacant buildings that are used primarily for commercial purposes in the historic downtown commercial district of the town of Silver City, so that such buildings do not constitute a public nuisance, fire hazard, or otherwise detract from the economic viability of said district." I would also request that the language in section 32-53, applicability, read as follows: "The provisions of this chapter shall apply to all properties that are used primarily for commercial purposes in the Silver City Historic Downtown Commercial District as designated on the Silver City zoning map as existing and as may be amended." I believe with those changes, the intent and the substance of this is not materially changed, but it does add clarity to the area that we're proposing this ordinance to. I believe it's fair. I think it puts vacant buildings on par with active buildings. You know, when we have an active building, we must get a business permit. We pay our application fee and we get it inspected. So all those buildings that are currently attended are already being inspected. They're paying the $35 inspection fee. And what we want to do is we want to get those unattended buildings basically on par with those. We want them to be safe. We want them to be inspected for safety purposes, and we want to ensure that downtown is safe and vibrant, and hopefully, as such, start reducing some of that vacancy to get down to a healthy vacancy rate. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any comments from the audience? Come to the podium and introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Joni Connors. I own a house in the Historic District, and I'm really happy about this ordinance. I've been wanting some change along these lines for years. I'm tired of looking at empty buildings with broken glass and decay, and this is a good first step. I do want to object to changing the wording to "for commercial purposes" in the latter two sections that you mentioned. I live across the street from a historic house that has been empty for at least 8 years. It is at Market and Pinos Altos Street, across the street from the St. Vincent's Church. It's got broken glass, it's got falling bricks, it's a hazard, it's got feral cats living in it, it's full of magazines, boxes and boxes of magazines, if you look in the doors. So it's a fire hazard, and it's a beautiful historic house that should not be allowed to decay, and the owner could easily sell it and somebody would want it. People walk by every day and say, "Why is that beautiful house decaying?" You know, they ask me questions. I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brown.
Can I have the address so I can send code enforcement out to look at it? Because that might be something we can deal with.
It's the 300 block, north block of Pinos Altos Street.
Okay, I'll send code enforcement out to look at that.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Council, my name's Nick Seibel. I'm the Silver City Main Street Project Manager, and
I'm the guy that's been taking the heat on this, and now I get to pass that heat on to you. So thank you, Councilor Morones, for introducing this ordinance, and thank you for some very thoughtful modifications to the ordinance that Main Street originally proposed to you. Let me begin by saying, personally, I've had some background. I've sat where you're sitting tonight, and even though I've been involved in a lot of ordinances in the past, I'm not a big fan of them, generally speaking, especially for something like this. An ordinance is a big, blunt instrument, and it's very difficult to make it surgical in a way that it only affects the things you want to affect without having unintended consequences. And so I had a lot of hesitation in the beginning steps of this process. When I first became Main Street manager over 2 years ago, this is what I heard the most about. You know, I heard, oh, business is slow, we need to do better promotion, we need to have more events. But the number one thing I would hear over and over and over again is we need to do something about vacant buildings. And as I've been in the position, I found that those criticisms and that urgency to action really came from across the political spectrum, people that have all sorts of views on, you know, government's role in the community. Everyone gets affected by this. And everyone feels the pain of vacant buildings in our downtown core. This is a community that has spent tens of millions of dollars of public money in improving our downtown, and we've got scores of private property owners downtown who have themselves spent tens of millions of dollars improving their properties. And these vacant buildings have become a millstone around the neck of our collective community. It's keeping us from taking that next step towards having a better downtown, which will enable us to have a better community as a whole. And being the Main Street manager, I have kind of a unique perspective on this because I see at least one potential downtown merchant per month. Sometimes I see 2 or 3 in a month, people that come to me and say, I want to have a business downtown. And sometimes they're referred by the Small Business Development Center. In fact, just last week I had a woman who's had a whole chain of successful retail businesses in California, and she's decided she wants to retire to Silver City and just have one store. She knows what she's doing when it comes to retail, and she said, I saw your downtown and I knew I wouldn't have any trouble finding a building. Well, the reality is we walk down the street and it's really difficult because very few of those buildings that are vacant are for rent, or in some cases even in a condition to be rented. There is no shortage of demand for downtown rental space. What there's a shortage of is rentable space that's available for rent at a fair rate. And so the idea behind this ordinance is to maintain the safety, the integrity of our downtown properties while encouraging downtown property owners to be also responsible citizens and have their properties available for rent. The last thing that I really want to say about this is my first course of action when it comes to these sorts of things. If a merchant or a building downtown has a broken window, this is a small town. The way we usually handle it is we go see that business owner, that private property owner, and we say, you know, something needs to be done about this because this is affecting everyone. Well, in the case of many of these vacant buildings downtown, we don't have that opportunity. Those property owners live in Florida or New York State or Arizona, and they're not available to us to go visit and say, hey, why don't you do something about this? There is no social pressure to do the right thing, which is the way a small town works. And that's why I believe ultimately having an ordinance, while it's a big step for us to take, is really where we need to go to make downtown a better place. And again, thank you for your work on this ordinance. I think there are some changes that we can make to make it an even better ordinance before it finally gets adopted. But I think this is important, and I appreciate your support.
Any other comments from the audience? Sandra?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Sandra Hicks, and I have a building in the historic downtown, a renovated building, and I applaud the intent of this ordinance. I think it's great. I own a bed and breakfast, and I can't tell you how many times I've had people say to me the next morning at breakfast, "Oh, your town must really be in sad shape because we saw so many empty buildings when we walked last night." So I always tell them, though, if you were here in the 80s, it was 80%, so we're getting better. We're improving. But I do have some concerns. I'd like to see somewhere, and I don't know if it's part of this ordinance, but I'd like to see some incentives also for people to do things with their buildings. And I'm also think that some of the timelines are a little tight. On the page 3 of 7, that you want within 45 days of the vacancy to get, to be notified. I think that you might put that out a little. I would recommend 90, but I think 45 is a little short. And then the status reports, I think that's a little short also. Every 30 days comes up really fast. I know, because I pay lodger's tax, and it comes up really quickly. I would suggest 3 to 6 months, either 3 or 6 months. I think that things aren't happening that fast that you can't check on things in about 3 to 6 months. I also might suggest that instead of just the word days, it'd be business days, to be more, people have an accurate count of what they'd be expecting. And the various things that you're asking people to do, the grass, the graffiti, etc., I would add that they need to keep their windows clean. That has been, and that's not addressed in here at all about the windows being clean. There's other things, but not the windows, as far as I could see. And I think I also think that there needs to be some way of reporting things, where if a private citizen sees a building that they feel is not keeping up to snuff, that they have a place where they can report it. And the other thing is, I also worry about some of our bigger buildings, that it's really hard to meet the demands of this ordinance, and perhaps there needs to be some contingency or exceptions or something done in that way. And that's pretty much it. Any questions?
Any other questions from the audience or comments? Come on up.
Hi, my name is Susie Calhoun, and I own some property downtown with Janie Katz. And I also think that this ordinance is a fine first step in looking at some of the problems downtown. And as Nick stated, it's always difficult to try to figure out how you can get what you want to get without hurting other people. And I feel like that I probably be one of the people who pays you some money probably fairly quickly in this ordinance, since I have a large number of properties and that could become vacant and some that are right now. And so my biggest concern is, where does the money go that I give? And I'd like to see there would be some kind of incentive for those of us who will end up paying some money, if that money could stay downtown and be put towards some of the cleanup and towards some of the places that, some of the things that need to be done. I was hoping that maybe with this new thing that Nick was doing at Main Street, where there's this area decided and maybe some monies could then go into that area that stays downtown. My other concern is that there are even properties that are rented that also need to somewhat fall into a little bit better category than what they are right now. I mean, yes, we have problems with the ones that are empty, but I think that if we're going to do this, we sort of need to look at the ones that are currently rented and some of the problems that those buildings have, even though there's somebody in there occupying the space. And then I also think we have to be very clear about what is occupied. I think suddenly you're going to have people who have vacant buildings suddenly say, well, it's my studio, or it's something else. That is, I think as a property owner, you sort of have a right to buy a building and then not rent it. I think that would be a very hard thing to say, that just because you buy a building downtown that you have to make it accessible to the public. So I think you have to be kind of careful about what happens. And again, I'm just concerned that people who are local, yes, will be the ones who sign up and tell you what's going on, and the ones that don't, I don't know how you're ever going to get a hold of them if you don't know how right now. And then I'm afraid that you're back sort of at square one, with what's going on here. So, I think it's definitely worth a try, and I'd like to see some of this stuff cleaned up downtown, because I agree that properties will become more valuable, there will be more renters downtown if it looks better down there. So I think we do need to try something, so thank you.
Anybody else? Any, Councilor Morales, would you like to respond to any of the comments?
Sure. If I can collect my thoughts a little bit. You know, we threw around, and by we, downtown merchants, people discussing this within the Main Street Project, with myself, and then I talking with other property owners that I knew hadn't looked at this until the last couple of weeks. And we were talking about longer reporting periods, longer registration periods, and the more we talk about it, there really isn't, no one could satisfactorily come up with a reason why 45 days is too short to register. It's after a month of it being vacant, you know it's vacant unless you have something in an agreement that's coming down the pipe there. Within 45 days, it's very easy just to go fill out a registration form as is. And then let's get it inspected, and let's make sure that we have it on the rolls, and the town staff understands what's vacant and that buildings are safe. When we're looking at reporting from there on out in a 30-day period, we're looking at probably something more of a template type matter, even if it's just a simple report, no change. It's something that could easily be done. I truly have no objection to lengthening it out 60, 90 days on reporting like that, but we want some sort of a system that we're apprised of any changes. We want to just make sure that everybody is aware. We want to make sure that people are going back into the building and making sure that things haven't changed. And 30 days is pretty easy for those who are local and or non-locals who have agents. Just quickly inspect the building and make sure that there is no change. And that would be the simple report, no change. But I'm open to seeing if anybody has that. There are questions on incentives. Why don't we add some more incentives? I really wanted this to be very simple, specific, and direct. And the more we add to it, the more comprehensive we make this ordinance, the more difficult it is to get anything passed. And I like to work in working towards success and seeing that we move in an appropriate direction. I like to take what I call a baby step approach. As we add incentives, as we add attended buildings to this ordinance, we decrease the likelihood that we get anything passed. We start adding more and more controversy to it, more and more items to discuss. And I really would like to see something very simple, something that we can get in there, we can test, we can get running, and see if it works, see if it has the positive consequences that I'm hopeful for. They're, going to, I own a building downtown, so I'm, there's nothing saying that I'm going to be staying in my building forever, and it may be unattended, and I do believe that innately I would like to have a right to keep it unattended if I wanted to. And even as such, I don't feel burdened. If I want to vacate my building and leave it unattended, I don't mind registering it. I don't mind going in there and inspecting and making sure that it's safe and reporting on a regular basis. If I leave it unattended for 10 years, I don't mind doing a walkthrough or having somebody else do a walkthrough and then reporting to community development that no changes. And if they want to come in and inspect it, I have no problem with it. I don't think that this is that much of a burden for me as a property owner if I do want to keep it vacant. It's I don't think that that's That's not an issue to me, and I haven't found anybody else that I've talked to that really creates an undue burden or option. There is the question of what is occupied, what is unattended. This is something, the original proposal that Main Street wanted me to bring forward had a number of definitions trying to define this. And what happened is I believed that it started muddying the water, had me scratching my head. I couldn't get through the definitions hardly. I wanted to bring it down to just leaving it as a reasonable person standard. We know what's, we can tell what's attended. The reasonable person knows what's attended. There's a number of shops downtown that are used strictly for storage, but in being used for storage, those buildings are being accessed on a daily basis. There's people constantly moving in and out of those buildings. We know that that's attended. To me, there's relative clarity with the reasonable person standard on what's occupied and what's not, and I think we can hold to that. I'm not sure I answered everybody. There was a number of questions thrown out there, and hopefully I've gone over the big questions on that and still feel comfortable with what we have here.
Thank you. I just want to comment on, Sandra, you made the comment on having somewhere to report. We do have somewhere to report, and contrary to popular belief, it's not the mayor. I think I got 4 code enforcement complaints over the weekend. Well, you send it to me, I send it to code enforcement, because that's their job. We write policy, they carry it out. So we do have a mechanism in place. If it's an emergent issue or violation of other laws, our police department responds, and if it's an issue that they feel is appropriate to refer to code enforcement, then on Monday morning it gets referred to code enforcement. So that is in place. I think my emails may be used more than that process. Any other comments? Counselor.
I think this is I like this ordinance. I do have some concern regarding buildings that are occupied, though, that don't seem to be covered anywhere. And things like building, can't I say the word, appurtenances, such as awnings, overhangs, signs, gutters, downspouts. There's buildings that are occupied with problems like this. And so, in a way, I mean, this doesn't cover them, but who covers those? That problem. And then you talk about rendered vacant as a result of catastrophic fire. Well, if it's vacant and there's a catastrophic fire, are they insured? So when it comes, like, maybe down the street into my building, and my insurance has to cover me being out of business because my building burnt up because of their building? Or are they insured so that if they have this vacant building, are they insured in case anything does happen like that, where it wipes out the whole street, goes down to your end of the street, burns you up too? You know what I mean? Like the D9. I mean, I understand how you want to make it kind of, I see that, Mike. But, you know, I go to, like, concerns like the broken glass in buildings that are occupied. And I guess maybe that's just a whole nother ordinance waiting to happen. Anyhow.
For occupied buildings, that we have active business licenses and such, they are subject to inspection. They are subject to code enforcement. They're registered. We already have, we know who the owners are. We know who to contact. This goes back to, as the mayor was saying, we just need to let code enforcement know that there's issues. The problem with the vacant buildings is we don't always know who they are. We don't know who to contact. Code enforcement may actually, they don't really have, if there's not a registration process, they may not know who's there. They don't really have a history on that building that's up to date and of value. On the occupied buildings, that's there, so we can actually simply go to code enforcement and they can start working on fixing those issues. On the insurance, I do require insurance, liability insurance on this. Now, not being an expert on insurance, I don't know what that would cover. I could only presume and hope that that would cover all damage that was created by that vacant building.
Are the vacant buildings, do we know if they are insured or not?
They're not now, not without this ordinance.
They may not be.
They may not be. We don't know. We don't know. With this ordinance, there would be a requirement, and we would get acknowledgement that it is insured.
Any other comments? Councilor Cook?
No, thank you. No, that's it, my answer.
Just to remind everybody, this is a notice of intent, which means this is, the vote tonight is basically stating whether it is or is not worthy of consideration by the council and the community. And it won't be heard again, I believe, till the first Tuesday in October. And that, or second Tuesday. I don't know where I'm at tonight. Councilor Morones.
Mr. Mayor, if I could add to, you just brought something to my attention, This is something that the downtown merchants have found to be very important. Leading the group of merchants that first brought this together were our property owners downtown. The actual members of the Main Street Board who drafted their version are property owners downtown. I, as somebody who introduces this, I am also a property owner downtown. This has profound effects on all of us. We're hoping that there's more good than bad. I believe that there is more positive to come out of this ordinance than there are burdens that are attached to it. But going with what you mentioned is, all of that illustrates that there is a huge importance and desire for the downtown community to have this discussion brought forward. It needs to be a public discussion, and probably more than anything, that's my motivation, is I need to sponsor this because I need to bring this to a public forum. I need to get public input. We need to give this its due. It's the due respect it needs to be brought forward and brought to the discussion table. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Morones.
You can bear with me. I move for approval of notice of intent, ordinance number 1211, an ordinance amending chapters 32 nuisances, article 3 unattended vacant buildings, section 32-50 of the Town of Silver City Municipal Code, with the changes I requested at the beginning of my discussion on page 2 of 7, section 32-51 and sections 32-53. Should I read those changes?
Yeah, because I can't repeat them.
Under Section 32-51, purpose, I would like that paragraph to read, "The purpose of this article is to regulate unattended vacant buildings that are used primarily commercial in the historic downtown commercial district of the town of Silver City, so that such buildings do not constitute a public nuisance, fire hazard, or otherwise detract from the economic viability of said district." I'd like to amend Section 32-53, applicability, to read, "The provisions of this chapter shall apply to all properties that are used primarily for commercial purposes in the Silver City Historic Downtown Commercial District as designated on the Silver City zoning map, as existing and as may be amended."
Second?
Mr. Mayor,
Counselor.
I'll second that as read.
There's a motion and a second to approve notice of intent ordinance number 1211 and ordinance amending Chapter 32 nuisances, Article 3, unattended vacant buildings, Section 3250, et sec. Of the Town of Silver City Municipal Code, with the amendments as read twice by Councilor Morones to Section 32.51 and 32.53. Any discussion? Councilor Bessie.
Just a quick question to Councilor Morones. In the first amendment you made on Section 32-51, was it to read, "The purpose of this article is to regulate unattended vacant buildings that are used primarily for commercial purposes"? Because it sounded like part of that was dropped off.
That are used primarily for commercial
Part of
purposes.
it sounded like it was dropped off. I just wanted to clarify the language.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Everybody clear? There's a motion and a second, and no further discussion to approve notice of intent, ordinance number 1211 as read and discussed. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is approval, disapproval of resolution number 2012-23, a resolution for the submission of the fourth quarter financial report for fiscal year 2011-2012. Mr. Brown.
Mayor and Council, this is basically a duplication of part of the ordinance that you approved when you approved the final budget and the final fourth quarterly report. They asked that we submit a separate resolution for the fourth quarter report, even though you already did it. And they did already send us a letter stating that our fiscal 2013 budget has been approved already, but they just asked us to do this for their record keeping.
Any comments from the audience? Any comments from the council? Shall we jump through this hoop?
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to say that since legislatively we have completed this task, I feel that it's unnecessary and redundant, but if the state calls for it, I guess they can ask for something that's unnecessary and redundant. Just wanted to make that point.
Any other discussion? Entertain a motion.
Should I make the motion?
Yeah, I want to make her do it.
After that, I can add some additional wording, but I will not. I move to approve resolution number 2012-23, a resolution for the submission of the fourth quarter financial report for fiscal year 2011-2012.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? There's a motion and a second to approve resolution number 2012-23, a resolution for the submission of the fourth quarter financial report for fiscal year 2011-2012. Roll call, please.
Councilor Madison?
Aye.
Councilor Wood?
Aye.
Councilor Ray?
Aye.
Councilor Morones?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is approval, disapproval of bid 1213-1, wastewater treatment plant bar screen replacement. Mr. Escada, is that yours? Robert?
I'll go ahead. Mayor and Council, the town received one bid for the replacement of the bar screen at the wastewater treatment plant. The bid was from Tatch Construction of Silver City. The base bid amount was $142,583, with the additive alternate of $5,625. So for a total amount which includes gross receipts, taxes, $159,138.34. I do want to state that this will be 55% covered by an EPA grant and 45% by water sewer funds, which have been budgeted for this project. So we do have the funds available for the construction of this project.
Can you explain to us what a treatment plant bar screen is? No, I wanted you to.
Is at the headworks of the wastewater treatment plant, and what its purpose is to remove solids as it's going through the waste stream. It's basically a screen with the rake arm, and as the solids build up, the rake arm automatically comes down, removes the solids, and it goes into a waste bin. And in the past, when we've had inspections by the EPA and NMED, some of their concerns has been about the number of solids that are making it past the bar screen and ultimately into the other treatment processes. One of the things that we're doing with this new bar screen is we're actually reducing the amount of space in between the bars so we get better how would you say, cleaning of the waste stream so that we don't have that problem in the future with our waste stream. And one thing of note, we went out to bid for this project. Not 2 weeks later did the bar screen break on us. So this is the original bar screen that was in place when the wastewater treatment plant was constructed back in 1978. And over the years, we've had to do numerous repairs to it. So this is a much needed project.
Thank you. Councilor Bettis.
Can you explain why there's such a significant disparity between the engineer's estimate for additive alternate 1 and the bid, and the same with, that's really striking, the difference. And then it's a little bit less striking, but still significant difference between the engineer's estimate for additive alternate 2 and the bid. But I really noticed it on the first one.
Yeah, I know.
%. Yeah. Just wondering what the issue is there.
On the, I do recall that adult number 2 was to have stainless steel. Have the equipment be stainless steel. The representative from the manufacturer said that stainless steel is not a requirement. It's more of buying added insurance for the equipment, but it's not necessary. It's not a necessary item for it. No, we're not awarding adult number 2. Just to save on funds, and it's not a requirement, it's just an upgrade per se on the equipment.
We're not awarding number 2? No.
Go back to the staff recommendation.
Okay, but we are awarding number 1.
Yes.
And why is that so different?
I don't recall what adult number 1 specifically was. I do know it's most likely probably something having to do with the overall components of it, but I'm not sure. I don't recall.
Could it possibly have something to do with the fact that when it was engineered, it was intact, and when it was bid, it was broken?
I don't believe. No, because when the bar screen broke, it was something that happened after it went out to bid, so the bids were already prepared prior to it.
Because it's 1,125% off.
Yeah, I can get you an answer, though.
Well, I don't think necessarily we need an answer, but I think it would be wise for us to have an answer and to try to find out what's going on with those for future bids, and mostly for your reference.
Right.
I have had discussion with our engineering companies on why this happens. I don't know if the market's fluctuating that much right now, at least not 1,100%.
I was just wondering if there was a potential that there might have been a typographical error and a zero was left off. I mean, if that was possible.
Not certain.
Okay. Just to give them the benefit of the doubt.
It very well could have been. The pertinent data is the actual bid.
Right.
Any other discussion? Entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Counselor.
I move to approve bid 12/13-1 wastewater treatment plant, bar screen replacement per staff recommendation, detached construction, for a total with GRT of $159,138.34.
Mr. Mayor, I second that motion.
There's a motion and a second to approve bid 12/13-1 wastewater treatment plant bar screen replacement per staff recommendation, detached construction, for a total with GRT of $159,138.34. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is approval disapproval of bid 12/13-3 Cactus Street Phase 2 ADA and street improvements.
Town received 4 bids for bid 12/13-3 Cactus Street Phase 2 ADA and street improvements. It's staff's recommendation to only award the base bid for $107,649.60 for a total bid amount of $115,588.76 to Diamond Construction. And the description of the project. I made him send it to me. So, is the base bid is a sidewalk, curb gutter, dry pad, and ADA improvements to Cactus Street from north of 22nd Street intersection to 24th Street. The additive alternate was the ADA ramps, which we are recommending that we do not award. The total grant from the DOT was $59,343, and we did know that this project was going to cost significantly more than that, so we did budget the additional amount, but we didn't budget enough to do the ADA ramps, so that's why we're recommending just doing the sidewalks themselves.
So are we going to leave the corners intact that are there now?
Yes.
Any discussion? Entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve bid 12/13-3 Cactus Street Phase 2 ADA and street improvements per staff recommendation to Diamond Construction Incorporated, total with GRT $115,588.76.
Is there a second?
I'll second it, Mayor.
There's a motion and a second to approve staff recommendation on bid 12/13-3. Any discussion? There's a motion, a second, and no discussion to approve bid 12/13-3 Per staff recommendation, the Diamond Construction Incorporated total with GRT of $115,588.76. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is appointments to Mayor's Climate Protection Agreement Citizens Advisory Committee. And I have applications from Linda K. Thompson, who is, I think she's the current chair. I have application from Denise Smith, who is a current member. And I have an application from Shelby Hallmark, who is a current member. I am very acquainted with all of these applicants and find them to all be qualified and actively contributing to the community, and will return to contributing once they have a quorum. So I would like to appoint the three that I just read off, if there's no objections from the council.
No objection.
The three that I just read off are duly appointed. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor,
Counselor,
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.